and had a situation where BP indemnified its subcontractors unless there was gross negligence, and then BP then argued that in the case of Halliburton there had been gross negligence because of the poor cementing. So it was quite an interesting legal fight. Just more detail that you can go through at your leisure. As I say, this is a whole presentation in its own right. And these are the consequences coming out of claims, exposures, limits, rating, reserving, and captive involvement, because, of course, the BP captive actually picked up the bulk of this. Once again, I sort of mentioned the whole aspect of the limits and the adequacy of the limits, the profitability of the business, and there are more. This was a Frigg Field jacket. This was a job that Paul wasn't involved in. And you can certainly talk about this over coffee or lunch even. But just to go quickly through this, it was a joint venture between Total and Norsk Hydro. The platform jacket was built in France and transported to site. There had been various delays and was then launched, and it sunk to the seabed. That's showing what should have happened and what went wrong. Additional weight required, additional buoyancy, so this was not adequate. The primary cause of the failure was insufficient thickness of the steel to withstand the water pressures, in other words, under design, so a basic error. Failure of components became progressive as the jacket sank lower and the water pressure increased. And then some damage in the jacket and striking the seabed, although that wasn't the major one. This is the Frigg jacket, sort of 10 years after the actual incident. The work was abandoned and then sort of restarted, and huge economic loss. And there were management and organizational changes in the project structure. This was 31 years after the casualty, where the idea was still to try and decommission it. And these were some of the lessons learned. Timing is critical. Delays do happen. Strong, effective project management is required. Economic losses are more significant than the physical loss. Robust engineering, design procedures, and I think this is important, is to have design verification. So the design is one thing, but you must have an independent verification of that. Valuation issues, insurance coverages to be revisited, re-examination of the role of the MWS. This was critical. It was talked about a bit yesterday. The MWS as the eyes and ears of the insurer, and the competence thereof. These are just a couple of very, very quick onshore. This was Kuwait. This was an incident I was involved in. In fact, 2 days after the incident, I was walking over the field over the sort of crisp crude oil on the ground. This is what it looked like after the fire. Very, very quickly, 4 fatalities, 10 injuries, 90% of the facilities damaged, 160 million 10 years ago. And what had happened is that there'd been corrosion of an underground export crude oil line. This hadn't been tested, and once the leak started, instead of taking the corrective action and shut down, they actually left it until there was oil all over the place, brought in a vehicle to try and suck it up, and then thought that they must switch off the power supply, which they did, old circuit breaker that then caused a spark, which then ignited the crude oil and the whole place burnt down. So onto the ice plug, which made the situation worse, and they tried to shut off the wild condensate coming in, and then couldn't find the person with the keys for the fence around the shut-off valve. So the whole thing was a comedy of errors. Flixborough, important here, bypass line that failed, cyclohexane, fire and explosion, and the important thing here was what came out of this was management of change. Somebody designed a very, very crude bypass line without doing the engineering properly, had it fabricated, installed, failed, disaster in terms of loss of life, and some more shots on it. And just important there was the management of change. And that's it.